And now we're going to have an opportunity to hear from leading women in STEM-based careers that are right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Our first panelist is Bonnie T-Tone. She serves as the Chief Information Officer at Duke Energy and leads the company's information technology operations and infrastructure, cybersecurity and physical security functions, product delivery, and expanding the digital transformation and data optimization strategies. Bonnie also serves on the board of directors for Young Black Leadership Alliance and is passionate about access to education for diverse populations, expanding STEM programs, and mentoring women in technology. Renee Askew is also joining us from the city of Charlotte, where she serves as the Assistant City Manager and Chief Information Officer. Renee oversees technology, innovation, strategic planning, and critical operations. She is focused on shaping Charlotte's technology's vision, strategy, and performance, and building on Charlotte's reputation as a top-ranked digital city that leverages technology to enhance the residents' experience, boost efficiencies, and increase our government transparency and innovation. She's also passionate about mentorship, helping professionals build self-confidence, and encouraging the pursuit of life-changing education and career opportunities. Our final panelist will be Deidre Fannis, Senior Vice President with M&S Consulting and board member of SIM Charlotte Chapter and SIM Women in Tech. And I'm sorry, it's Deidre. Deidre Fannis has over 25 plus years of IT leadership and technology delivery with public and private companies of varying sizes and industries and consulting. Throughout her career, she has been both a recipient and a leadership mentor, helping to define and develop other technology professionals, promoting STEM development, particularly with girls and women of all ages, and has held a seat on the UNCC Women in Computing panel. This STEM panel will be moderated by Erica Moore, Vice Chair of the Project Scientist Board of Directors and Executive Director of the STEM Funders Network. Before serving as the Executive Director of the National STEM Funders Network, Erica was the Senior Program Officer at the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, leading the team focused on creating equity in education and workforce development for over 900,000 students. She has also been honored as an outstanding Georgia citizen by the Secretary of the State, a Woman of the Year by Atlanta's Women in Technology, an ecosystem builder by the Tech for Ally Alliance, as one of the top 4 inspirers in America by Inspire magazine, who in Black Atlanta, and with several distinctions from her alma mater, the Georgia Institute of Technology. Let's hear it for this absolutely incredible panel.
So as we take our seats, if you could just, for these amazing introductions and these women that you just were introduced to, right, by Morgan, just give them one more round of applause, please. Because like you, they are taking time out of their day to be here and to be a part of this conversation and to make sure that we're just walking away, right, with some perspective. And for the audience that we have that are participating virtually in live stream, we can't thank you enough for doing the same. You are taking a moment to engage in a conversation and to be a part of the solution that Project Scientist is just a part of our mission. So ladies, thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your impact here in the city of Charlotte. And again, we've had these great introductions, and I promise you, Blair and I did not share our questions before we started this process, but here we are with a similar question. And let's just put it in perspective, right? Particularly as we have young ladies that may be watching this and paying attention to this conversation. So if you were going to give advice to your K through 16, and I am spreading it out a little bit, right? So that whole time frame, K through college or higher education, if you were to give yourself advice, what would it be? Anybody can start, just where, as you kind of reflect and you've had a moment to really think about this question. You know what, Bonnie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I could start. I would say have a plan and be ready to throw it out the window. That's what I would tell myself. As I think through my early life and then my college life and my career, I've always been kind of driven and passionate and a bit of an extrovert, which I think also helped a little bit. And I always had a plan for what I wanted to do or what my next step was or where I ultimately wanted to be. And what I found is you have to just have guideposts. Right? You can't be so stringent about the direction that you're going to go in because you will lose opportunities. You're going to lose perspective and experiences that frankly help you mold your career. So that would be my suggestion to myself. Have a plan, but be ready to crumble it up and throw it out the window.
Pivot. Absolutely. Absolutely. Renee?
So for me, so I grew up in North Philadelphia. And so I don't know if many of you are aware of the climate in Philadelphia and what it was, well, I'm not going to age myself, but what it was like. And so I would tell myself that those years grounded you. Allow it to ground you because, I grew up in an environment where we didn't have technology, so that wasn't the thing. And so I grew up in a neighborhood. It was very difficult. It was very rough, but it also grounded me in perspective. And so the work that I do today around digital inclusion, around diversity, it's all grounded in where I grew up. So when I hear people talk about, hey, we just need to have labs around the city, that's great, but I was a latchkey kid. How would I get there? So I really look at from the perspective of how I grew up and how I can make sure that those opportunities are available for everyone. So just stay grounded in where you came from.
Absolutely. Keeping it real. Deidre?
What would I say to myself? Well, I grew up in an extremely rural area of upstate New York. People don't think that that's pretty rural, but a 450-acre crop farm. So I did not see technology around me other than tractors. So probably what I would say is I always learned the value of hard work and dedication, as well as the value of just being kind and inclusive of ideas and different things. So I would probably tell myself that those are great values: forming relationships, communication, and making sure that you're kind and you're driven and working hard. Probably are the best things. And I was pretty far from thinking about technology in the standpoint of STEM like we know it today. Right. But I think that there are some remnants of that looking back in some of the things that I was brought up around and to do.
No, thank you for all sharing, right? Your value system, inclusiveness, staying grounded, having a plan and recognizing, be flexible with yourself with that plan. Those are the things that have really just have guided you, right? Throughout your career to the level of success that you've achieved here and now for this time, because I know you still have other things that you're going to do and I really love when reading your bios and even just watching you as you walked into the room, the connectedness that you have. I don't take it lightly, right? That all three of you are representing technology leadership in a city that's continuing to evolve and to really grow in that space. There's a phrase, representation matters. And the three of you are representative of the epitome of what we want to share and encourage with this audience. When you think about, if we go back 1999, 1999, where was I in 1999? IBM is actually where I was in 1999. But that's when actually the acronym STEM was presented. It was actually a marketing awareness opportunity. But since 1999 in your career trajectory, so Renee, I'm going to start with you. What do you think has changed? What have you seen? What have you experienced either in your own career or just generally speaking? What's changed over that time frame?
I think a lot has changed, honestly. So just think about project scientists, having programs like that, having opportunity for young girls to see people in STEM, to see opportunities to learn about technology. I didn't learn about technology until I was exposed in college, and the world opened up for me. So how much more for those who get to see and experience it now? And so I think that has changed a lot. I was reading a statistic recently, and there was a couple of them, and one talked about 3 million new jobs in STEM by 2025. And then another, I think it was a Forrester article that talked about by 2035, there'd be 11 million new tech jobs. That's staggering. And so when you hear that and you think about the opportunity we have in front of us to make sure that no man, woman, or child left behind with respect to technology, man, there's just a huge opportunity for us. And so I believe that programs like this one makes a difference. I think the opportunity to see people in leadership like yourself model the behavior, model the opportunity, I think that's tremendous and will provide a tremendous value to our community. And that has changed since 1999.
Wow, how impactful. David, how would you answer that question?
Well, besides the phase of coming out of my feathered hair, no, in seriousness, I think there's been a lot that's changed and continues to change, which is encouraging. Not maybe not at the pace that we want it to, but I remember when I went to work first for Kraft Food Service, and back then it seemed that any technology career, I was in technology department, seemed to push women toward those more administrative tasks. And seemed to, even if it wasn't your job duty, then a lot of times whatever was happening in a project or a meeting, it was tagging the woman in the room to handle those administrative tasks. So I think there's a little bit of change that's going on in that sense, where that's not always the case. And like Renee said, I think more support organizations or organizations that are focused in being intentional and authentic around women in technology and the support and being able to show girls like Paige and others, this is what I do. The other thing I want to mention too is that oftentimes I have a daughter who is 11, and when they think technology and STEM, that it has to be coding or development, it's not always the case. Okay. I've actually never touched a piece of code myself. I've actually been project management, business analysis, quality assurance, leadership. There's a lot of roles within a STEM organization, within technology careers, that can take you into different types of jobs and positions and so forth. So I think that knowledge and making that awareness is also changing. Great point.
No, I appreciate how you all are drawing out, right, what was and what's now, the mindsets that have changed and have evolved, because all of that's critical. When we talk about representation matter, all of those things from a systems perspective have to be in play. We can do so much through project scientists, but there are things systematically that have to evolve and change. So I appreciate you for calling those out. Bonnie, haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah, I agree with everything that both of them said. I think the other thing is, companies now appreciate diversity more. They have metrics and goals around it. It's things that everybody has to pay attention to, whether they want to or have to, they're doing it. And I think that certainly is something that has helped open some doors. I think on the other side of it too is, I think as the industry evolves, there's roles and jobs that get created that didn't exist many years ago. And what we're working on now and the roles now are going to look very different 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And all of that, I think, lends to that really great ability to think for diversity around who am I going to hire, who's the right fit for that. Because I think it really ties to the point around the traditional role. It doesn't have to be the traditional role. There's the next thing I think they come into the industry. So I think the coupling of the number of jobs increasing, the types of jobs increasing, and then just the diversity of talent pool, both recruiting and kind of creating a bench, I think are also helping drive this change between where we were in 1999, where I found myself in a room and being the only female for many, many years in technology, to now seeing the seats at the table filled with a great number of diversity. I think that's why we're able to deliver better and why you see better ideas coming to the surface and solving really complex problems. We need to do more of that.
We need to do more of that, absolutely. Let's give it up for those 3 responses right there, right? I'm saying going back down memory lane and bringing us forward. I appreciate you for just, again, that woo-saw and just kind of, reveling in that. And so now I want us to reflect on, and I know, right? So I'm just going to set the stage because I know it's difficult sometimes for us to engage in talking through the negative realities. But, and I appreciate, for Sandra and for Jayshree, just how they talked about just some of these uncomfortable conversations that we might have to have. So I'm going to set the stage and I'm going to go off script a little bit, but the question will still be the question you receive, but I'm going to go off script for a little bit because before I sent you this last question, I hadn't had this experience. This literally happened to me last week, last Thursday. I was coming out of a leadership council meeting for a statewide organization, and the father approached me. He's had a senior executive career at a Fortune 500 organization, technology career, 12-year-old daughter. His daughter is on the robotics team, second year on the robotics team. And one of her fellow team members told her that she was useless. So the conversation that I'm having with her dad is, I need you not to focus on the young man that made that comment to your daughter. I need you to focus on your daughter. I need you to focus on her mindset. I need you to focus on what you can do to uplift her and anybody else that's in her space or your circle of influence. But that's where we are. His question to me actually was, Erica, it's 2022. How are these comments still happening? And I think one of the things I'm proudest of relative to Project Scientist is it's not so much about having to focus on changing the world. We're changing the mindset of these girls. And it's not always about changing the person, but in this instance, right? It's about empowering them, encouraging them. So with that backdrop and with, Bonnie, landing with where you ended, right? From a DEI perspective. Again, I know we don't like to focus on the negative realities, but when you think of where we are right now, or even if you think of your hope, let's turn it around and think of your hope of the future. Where do you still see some opportunities for us to make a difference? And I gave my personal perspective about Project Scientist, but where do you think Project Scientist can engage in some of the things you see about the future that we can change and changing those narratives? Jayshree, you want to start?
I'm happy to start. Yeah, it's unfortunate, those things happen. And they're going to happen throughout all walks of life. I try to encourage my daughter on a daily basis for comments and things like that. I think that, Project Scientists and other organizations, as well as moms, dads, interactions, can always just encourage leadership and making sure that people feel confident in their own person, because those negatives then just kind of bounce off, right? So I think as much as people can build their own confidence, feel their own self-worth, understand communication is extremely important and being able to communicate with others. But I would encourage everybody in this room to go home and talk to their kids about, don't be a bully, right? Just be a nice person. Help somebody up, lift them up, and do that in your career. Sometimes I see even adults being bullies.
Yeah.
And so I think as much as you can take somebody and say, you are very much worthy, and you are very unique and special and have your own way to go about doing things, is what I'd love to see people just do. Make just change one person's life in that sense. But Project Scientist, I'm also part of the SIM organization, SIM Women in Tech, along with Michelle Coviella, who's here. We really focus and try to encourage that growth and that partnership and that nurturing. And as much as it is about business and STEM, it's really about being authentic. Let people understand that you got challenges. You understand, some things don't go right sometimes. And that it's in those moments, I think, that we really foster those relationships and encourage people.
Thank you. Thank you. Renee.
Yeah. So I love where you landed, because what I found is that as we are more authentic, I think that we attract some of the young people more to us. I think our responsibility is to be that sponsor, right? Is to recognize that there's talent and to promote that talent irrespective. And so I believe preparation meets opportunity. So the young lady continued to prepare herself for where she wants to go. And those sponsors, those of us in the room, can help with those opportunities. I remember when I was very early in my career, I had a boss, my first, I'm probably older than some of you. So as I look around the room, stop laughing at me. And so the boss that I had, I worked for an energy company in Houston, and we were having a production issue. At the time, remote work existed. So you had a laptop, you take it home, you continue working in your production problem. And so he stood in my office door and he said, "You can't leave until this is finished." I had a young child, 6 months old, and I had to make some phone calls and kind of work through it. But that moment I decided I was leaving that organization because that organization didn't support a working mother. And that's what it said to me. Now, of course, that wasn't necessarily the general message of the company. I just took the opportunity to say, this is not the place for me. This is not the boss for me. And so I believe it is important for us as leaders and executive to be able to sponsor those who work with us and for us and create that opportunity for them to be authentic, to be human. I know that over the past couple of years, we've learned the importance of doing that and that it's okay. It's okay if somebody has a child in the background. It's okay if someone has a cat going across the keyboard. It's perfectly okay. And I think that that's what we've come to recognize is the importance of, understanding who we are, being authentic with other people, allowing them to be authentic with us, and sponsoring them to be the great person that they are.
Wow. Yeah. I love everything Renee said. I think first and foremost, as it relates to the comment, I would say prove them wrong, first and foremost. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. There's nothing special about any particular person. We can all be whatever we want to be. And I think you should take comments like that and use it as your fuel. Yeah. Right, for the next thing that you're going to go after. And I think, that you learn that over time, right? Yep. As females, I think, at times you ingest that and it crumbles you as opposed to ingesting it and making you do something even better with it, right? It's the fuel to your fire, if you will. So that's the first and foremost. I think Renee hit on a couple of things. For me, it's experience, exposure, and support. Those are the three things. I think if you can give people experiences and let them see what's out there, or maybe what they can't see themselves, I think that is certainly something organizations like Project Scientist and any company or organization can do, exposing them to your network and the people around you. It's especially here in Charlotte, Renee and I were talking about this earlier, we're just so connected, right? Even though we all do very different things, we're just so connected, and it literally takes a minute for us to text somebody or pick up the phone or, give somebody a connection to somebody else, because a lot of us are 1 or 2 degrees from each other. I think it's important as far as that. And then the sponsorship, right? Do something every day to talk about somebody when they're not in their room, or, give them the ability to vent and hear their story and help them get ahead. I don't know if you've ever seen them. It's the saying that says, fix somebody else's crown without telling them it was crooked.
Yeah.
That we all should do that every single day. Yeah. And that's not just a female thing, right? Guys can wear crowns. Right? Honestly, I think it's if every day you could just do something without getting the glory for it to help support somebody else, and whatever that looks like, I think those are the things that we can do.
Yeah. May I add something? So I think, I don't know if it's Sandra or Sandra, how you pronounce it, but it's like we grew up in the same neighborhood. So when I was growing up, in the African American community, when you have guests coming over and you're like, oh shoot, there's more people than I expected. And so we used to have this old table where, okay, you guys have grandmas, you know this. You pull the table out, you add the leaf, you pull up some chairs, right? And I believe that's what needs to happen in our communities, right? In our workplaces. Pull out the table, add a leaf, pull up some chairs, make space for additional people. And I think that is what is going to make a difference.
I appreciate how you all have reflected your individual experience, but I love the connectivity that exists between you, both naturally and just from the shared experiences that you have. Your connectivity is absolutely your collective superpower. And Charlotte is blessed to have this type of superpower sitting here with us, but just engaging every day with this community and making the impact that you're making. Thank you for sharing your voice and giving the perspective of, again, what's real. Thank you for the vulnerability and the transparency that you've brought to this conversation. Here's a question that was absolutely not in the email, but hopefully it's an easy one as we kind of close out this conversation. When you think about mentoring, you've talked about sponsoring, but I'm going to ask you and from the perspective of mentoring, when you think about mentoring, can you share either a favorite mentoring experience, and I'll give you a whole lot of space and gratitude, latitude, since I did not prep you with this question, but mentoring from the standpoint of either your favorite, you had the opportunity to mentor someone, or you have been mentored by someone, you've been the mentee. Either are good, either work in response to this question. But again, for this audience that's sitting out there here and as well as virtually with us, what has that been for you on either side of that mentoring?
I can start.
Sure.
And I wish he was watching because my mentor was actually a man. Great guy, Steve Humphreys. As a matter of fact, through a leadership organization, they encouraged everybody to think back across their lives and their mentors. And even if you've fallen out of touch, write them a note because it will be really meaningful for them. So I did that recently. But this person gave me opportunity and support and firepower beyond anything that I was capable of. I mean, I wasn't capable of it. And he's like, yes, you were. So I think you just need to, and my personal opinion about mentoring is find those people that will stand up for you and maybe are different from you, right? They don't have to be exactly the same, but, and find a variety of different mentors. I like to mentor people, in a variety of different ways, but I think the relationships that you form and the people that you get to know through organizations might not be dedicated mentor, but they're helping shape you, and they are somebody that you can lean on. So good tribes are great.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I've had a couple of mentors throughout my career, but the one that I want to talk about was one who modeled behavior. So a mentor is not just saying the right things, but also doing the things that they feel is important for you to do. And Twyla Day, as a mentor of mine, and I still consider her a mentor, although she's now transitioned to being a great friend. And she taught me the importance of, one, family first. So you can be a great professional, and that's important, but you can have both. And you can balance both. When I met her, she was a single parent. And so she gave me the confidence that as a single parent, she was progressing very well and deliberately in her career. And why couldn't I do that? I mean, I wasn't a single parent, but I had children. And I had lots of children, I had 4. And so I was able to, in watching her and her mentoring me as I developed throughout my career, learn that I could not only be a mother, I could be a great professional, I can be a manager, I can be an executive leader, because I moved through all of those stages as we worked together and talked with each other. And I think that's important. And so it wasn't that, a mentor is not someone you lean on just because it's you are very deliberate in your conversation. And I was very deliberate. And I also had a male mentor who I believe gave me a totally different perspective because it taught me about, from a male's point of view, how to be very focused, very purposeful, not emotional, because I think that women sometimes get, a bad rap in terms of being emotional. And so I had the balance of those two mentors. And so as I, talk and work with and mentor others as they come up throughout their career, I keep both of those perspectives in mind because I think that they're both critical. And still be human, still be a female, but not try to sway too much on the side of being a male, but being authentic and being myself.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think Renee hit it. I think as it relates to mentorship, I have 4 mentors and I've picked them up along my journey. Every stop I've made, generally a city, I pick up a different one. And what I've found is they need to look very different than me and have an extremely different perspective than me, or they're not my mentor. And the reason for that is you obviously want somebody to listen, and you want somebody to, have your back and have your side, but that's not growth. Right? Growth is when somebody can push you or tell you a perspective that's different than yours, or make you think about something that isn't in your mind and your thought track. And that for me has really been super helpful throughout my career, because that perspective is hugely important, especially as you get higher and higher up the chain of command in organizations, because what's around the table and what you're dealing with on an everyday is very different from the way you think and the way you expect things to come out of it. So that's one thing for me, just have a very diverse group of mentors when you do pick them. And then the other thing is, I think for me is everything, the one common thing that my mentors have always told me is, don't be anybody but yourself. Right? You got to be that authentic piece that we were talking about before, because you won't show up the best way you can. Right? There's something about each of us that makes us unique and makes us ourselves. You have to bring that to the table, because if you don't, it won't feel right, and you probably won't have the outcome that you expect. So that's the other thing. Be true to yourself. There's a reason you're sitting there. There was something there, right, that made them pick you. So own that. Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, since I just tossed that question on you, if it's okay, I'm going to answer it as well, just so I didn't put you in the fire and leave you there, right? For me, it's two mentors. The first is actually my first role at IBM as an account executive. He's a white male, Alex Shootman. To this day, he is now one of the greatest friends in life. But from IBM to BMC Software, he talked about modeling, but also he helped strengthen my confidence in terms of giving me voice, giving me agency. I'm this new employee out of Georgia Tech, coming to this team. I've inherited this account Amarada Hess from an account executive who had it for 12 years and literally moved with the company from Tulsa to Houston. And I'm like, yes, please, thank you. I really needed that. But he was great, right, in terms of encouraging, inspiring, and again, just saying, you can do it. I know you've got it. It doesn't matter the history of it. You've got it because it's in your hands now. So I appreciated him for that empowerment. The second person, though, is a woman who's been most instrumental in the last 10 years, really 12 years of my life. Her name is Viola Maxwell Thompson. She was the former president and CEO of an organization called IT Senior Management Forum. And just seeing her operate, engage, bringing her authentic self, recognizing her skill set and what she brings to bear, but also just being human, being touchable, right? Being approachable, recognizing that sometimes you will have to speak truth to power. I mean, all of that was amazing to watch under her leadership, and just in continuing with a friendship with her now. So I just want to encourage everyone, whether you can think of yourself as being a mentor or recognizing the value of being mentored by someone, right? It doesn't matter how old you get in terms of the capacity and the value that can yield. Just want to leave and encourage that, because that's something that Project Scientist does daily, is mentoring, inspiring, and encouraging. And thank you so much. Deidre, Renee, Bonnie, thank you for your time. Again, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the commitment to the work. And thank you for being a part of this conversation today. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.